Hey, everybody. I've been thinking a lot about journalism over the last few days. No, that wouldn't be true. Over the last few years, and what I have been seeing happening with journalism. And I mean that in terms of what's happening with corporations as they've taken over the voices of journalists. It is a truly disturbing trend. And of course, we're talking about it right now because of what happened to Joy Reid and what has happened to so many other voices, especially black and brown voices, in this journalistic circle. And I was going back to my old history books and where we talked about the idea of the Fourth Estate. The Fourth Estate was a were journalists. Actually, the whole concept was introduced, from what I read, by a guy named Thomas Carlyle back in the 1840s. During the French Revolution, it was seen that journalists had the skills and the power to spread facts and opinions that could literally push back tyranny, can also spark a revolution. There was a purity about it, and it was forth. It was outside of government. It was outside of executive leaders. It was this group of voices that could really shine light on things that we needed to know about and ensure that the people had an independent voice. What we're watching is that disappear. And the reason that it's happening and the reason it is so incredibly deliberate is what Carlyle said was happening in 41. The power of independent journalists can stop tyranny. They can push back fascism. There's all kinds of things that they can do when people know the truth and choose to hear the truth. So it's not incidental that this current administration is putting all this pressure on these larger news organizations to get in line. They've been given marching orders. They don't want a revolution. They don't want a revolution of ideas. Hell, they don't want ideas. They want you to be force fed whatever it is that they're putting out right now, whatever basically Vice President I don't even want to say this man's name, you know who we're talking about, who was causing all of the hell and disastrous behaviors within our government right now. This president who just seems to be there as a figurehead, and I think they just hand him a pen and he signs off on whatever Musk and Vance bring to him. I think he's just having fun. But what they don't want you talking about is the legality of what they're doing, the disgusting behaviors, the damage that they're doing to Americans, the fact that veterans and poor folks and seniors and all of these people who have come to depend on our government that we pay into to take care of us, the government that, when you get Social Security, it's not an entitlement. We have paid for Social Security. And so when that's threatened, it's a serious thing. When you start talking about cutting off Medicaid, you're talking about babies and sick people who need it to stay healthy. When you begin to randomly fire black people and women and leaders who've been at the helm of leadership for decades simply because they are black, are women, are gay. This needs to be talked about. And it is the role of the Fourth Estate or of journalists to have the freedom to do that. So what they doing? They're getting rid of everybody, out. These voices are disappearing like nobody's business. You can go back to Melissa Harris Perry. You can look at what happened to Joy, of course, what happened to Don Lemon, what happened to Tiffany Cross. These aren't the only ones. There are brown journalists as well whose roles have been diminished. And why? Because they tend to be the ones who actually are paying a whole lot of attention to what's going on. Now, of course, there's the Rachel Maddows and stuff like that, so I don't mean to minimize their role. But when it comes to cutting, it's always people who look like us that end up on the chopping block because we got the nerve to have something to say. I mean, it is the audacity of folks who have been given these roles to actually speak out against them. At one point, I was an op-ed columnist, and I was doing some freelance work for the Indianapolis Star. And I remember a column I wrote, and I think I covered a Klan rally at the state capitol, and my inbox was just full of the audacity of me coming out and speaking against this thing. And who gave me this column? Even then, it was DEI, the only reason that I was even able to write for that paper. They because they couldn't deal with the fact that I was a black, smart, well-educated woman with a voice. They instead attacked me as a black woman and tried to minimize my voice. I didn't take to that even then, and I was a whole lot younger in those days, but I was never intimidated by that. Part of that is because I was raised in a family of writers. My uncle had been a Pulitzer Prize winning columnist for a major newspaper, and so the value, and let's be key on that word, value of the written word was something that I grew up with heavily. And I say emphasize the word value because values is really what we're talking about, isn't it? I mean, even in the work that I do as a professional, it's around values and leadership. It is around the one thing we should be able to go back to that points to why we decided to do something, and that is our internal values. So when we watch these news stations, these newspapers, all of these people who are really devaluing the voices of their journalists, they never valued them in the first place. They valued the capital that they bring in. They were interested in that piece, but they are so willing to move against whatever written values they have and ensure that these people no longer have jobs and have voices. That you realize it was never truly a deep value, was it? So when we think in terms of what we value, it's not CNN. It's not MSNBC. It is not Fox. It is none of these. We are looking for truth tellers. You can be a truth teller. We can follow truth tellers because the power of the written and spoken word can knock all of this foolishness down. And they clearly know that. So be very careful to seek out those voices of truth, to respond to that, to stop giving our money to people who don't really want to, they want to see our money but don't want to see us. We have power that we continue to just give away, to throw away, to toss away. It is the most frustrating thing in the world to watch it happen. But today I'm talking about journalism in particular. Find your tribe. I said that yesterday, and follow them. Create your own voices. We all got phones and computers. While we're not all journalists, and I'm not asking you to go out here and be a hack, but if there's something that you want to talk about that's happening in your own community, do that. Add your voice to it. But also, I think it's important that we do find leaders in the journalistic realm that we trust and who are valuable to us and who have been steadfast in what they're saying and who are unafraid to share their opinions about things and to educate us about some things that maybe we don't know about and we need to know about. So think about that fourth estate. Think about the importance of journalism to turn back the tide on fascism and just get into it, understand it, use it to fight back. But don't just lay back and just wonder what's going to happen and hide. Because if we do that, we'll look up and this whole place will be on fire. Hang in there. We'll talk to you later.